Well, it's marriage week, and so what better way to talk about finance than talk about how finances affect marriages with Gavin Martin, our finance guy, who's back with us again today. Hello, Gavin. Welcome back to 2020.
G'day, Neil. It's great to be with you.
Gavin, if we're talking marriage during marriage week, it's hard to get around the idea that finances play a central role in the way that we outwork our lives, and it's just the same within marriage.
Yes, finances are an integral part of life and an integral part of marriage. If we look at the statistics, it consistently comes up that finances is the number one argument starter in marriage. And so being able to put some structure around how to manage your finances in a family can provide a lot of, reduce a lot of stress, both within the marriage and the broader family as well.
I guess when we talk about arguments, the idea of being on the same page financially is going to be part of the solution, or at least the preparation for avoiding some of the big arguments you might have.
Yeah, I always say if you are on the same page, working in the same direction to achieve joint goals, then that's going to be a fantastic first step to eliminating a lot of arguments, because whenever you're making a decision, you can go back to, well, what are we really trying to achieve? What's most important to us? And if you've agreed on those previously, it makes other decisions a lot easier. You're able to say, well, we do want to save for this holiday, so we might actually choose to eat home tonight rather than do the easy thing and just get some takeaway on the way home. So setting those goals up is a really key first step.
I suspect that the sorts of things that you need to talk about when it comes to finance in marriage are the things you need to talk about before you actually get married. If we went back to newlyweds, people who are just going through that wedding and getting a life together, getting onto their feet, getting the finance issues sorted out is a pretty important part of it all.
Yes, it is. And a lot of when two people are coming together and they might have their own family backgrounds and how they dealt with money, a lot of it is coming together with your, sometimes it's actually baggage that you're bringing together, working out with your independent suitcases of how you deal with finances. What are the things in those suitcases that you're going to take out and leave out, and what are you going to put into your joint suitcase that you're going to carry on into your marriage? It's really important to, I guess, talk those through, and not just on finances, but on all areas of your life, because where you've come from, your family backgrounds, has a really strong impact on how you're going to live out your life into the future.
I suspect some important aspects of finance include the idea of setting goals and getting a budget together. Those are the sorts of things I guess you're constantly talking to people about.
Yes, the first thing in any financial consultation that we do is to work through, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? And once we've got that sorted out, we can go through and talk about, here's your range of strategies. And that's something that we can do from a financial planning perspective. But for couples, they really need to nut that out themselves so that they can get on the one page. Where it starts to become a bit more problematic is where you might agree on those goals, but then a spouse decides to actually go down a different track, whether it's using the credit card when you'd agreed that you weren't going to, or what have you. That's where it starts to get a little bit trickier.
I remember when I first got married, Gavin, it was hard to see beyond even the first year, or it was hard to see 5 years ahead. And I don't think when we were first married, it was easy to look at 10 years ahead, but the decades go by. Is it a good thing to have some sort of a roadmap or some sort of a plan maybe that includes your whole life, that where your finances intersect with reality, those things need to be in place?
Yes, I caught up with a young couple yesterday who just going into full-time ministry, finished the studies, and they're basically doing that. They're working out, we really want to be generous with our resources, but we also want to be smart about what we're doing as well. So they were planning out the next 5, 10, actually 30 and 40 years ahead, and quite pointedly asked me the question, how much will we need to save each year to make sure that we're wise enough and saved enough to support ourselves in retirement, with the goal, their underlying goal was that they really did want to make sure that they were generous as they possibly can right now, but not unwise and frivoling away their money. So you can set up a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and of course it's going to change, but you can even look further and think about the longer term retirement plans as well.
That is such an interesting aspect you're bringing to that, because while we might not be able to identify a year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years in advance those things that we might be doing, when you talk about the aspects of generosity, of being smart with finances, of exercising wisdom when you're out working those things, those are the sorts of things that help to map out a lifetime based on character rather than just living life on a whim.
Yes, exactly. And for this particular couple, they were really on about generosity and being able to host people, have them over to their home, but they didn't want to just do that for a time and then realise that, hang on, it's not going to work financially. We need to pull that back a bit. They wanted to make sure that they planned it out well and to make sure that they're able to maintain consistent living, I guess, throughout their working and their non-working life.
How much should you put into, Gavin, the idea of anticipating that things might go awry somewhere? The job loss, the health issue, those types of issues that can really hit you for six. They affect our finances. How much anticipation ought we to be putting into those things, right from newlyweds through to the long-time marrieds?
Yeah, I think you really need to make the assumption there it's rather a question of when, not if, and so to plan for those scenarios, because generally at some stage throughout life those scenarios hit you, whether it is a smaller thing like a car breaking down, or whether it is a larger thing like a job loss or a death, for example. You really need to plan for those things, and you can do it in some simple ways, like having what we call an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months living expenses sitting in an account that you can use for those emergency period purposes, or to get by if you have lost your job for a time. But you can also put in place other things like insurances that can assist you in the case of disability or death as well, or unable to work due to illness. So there are things that we can do to mitigate those scenarios, and generally it is a case of when and not if in most family environments.
And Gavin, coming back to what we started this conversation about, and you said that finances are often the key thing that cause arguments within marriage. If you've got things right, if you've got a plan, perhaps if you're able to stick to a budget, if you've got some goals and you are aware of your finances, is it possible to turn around that foundation for arguments and turn it into a foundation for strength in your marriage?
Yes, it definitely is, and that's what I like to get people to focus on when they're talking about finances. Utilise them to bring you closer together rather than further apart. And if that's your basis for finances and how you operate with finances, then you're going to your intention with any discussion and any matter to do with finances will bring you closer together. There might be arguments and disagreements, but if the foundation is that your intention is together to bring you closer together, then it actually can do that. It can work.
Well, always good talking, Gavin Martin, and just to mention to listeners that the sorts of things we talk about when we talk about finances are not about individual circumstances, and if you are looking to make financial decisions, you should see a financial advisor and take your personal circumstances into account. Gavin Martin is from Cornerstone Wealth. I'll pass on the website, www.cornerstonewealth.com.au. Gavin, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being with us today on 2020.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Great to be with you.